This is one of the most remote family theme parks in the United States. Storyland is nestled in the White Mountains of Glen, New Hampshire. That is 22 minutes north of Conway, a town that has a population of less than 10,000 people. And your closest airport and major city is going to be Portland, Maine, which is over an hour and a half away. They got their start back in 1954 as Storytown. They were founded by a couple from North Conway who were living in Europe at the time and were visited by a woman who was selling these dolls that were based off of children's fairy tales. They sold them 25 and were wondering what to do, and the woman suggested that you build a small village around them. And that eventually evolved into a full theme park. Nowadays, they're home to 30 rides and attractions that includes 2 roller coasters and 2 water rides, and a total of 35 acres. For most of its life, the park was family owned and operated, but in 2007, it was sold to Kennywood, who was then acquired by Palace Entertainment. They now own and operate the park. Their attraction lineup is geared towards kids and preteens, and because this is a relatively touristy area, it's designed to be a day trip on that family vacation, or honestly, even a quick morning or afternoon visit. Depending on crowds, you could in theory knock this place out in a couple hours. It just depends on what you want to do. I visited for my first time in the summer 2024. I got there right at open and ended up leaving a couple hours before close. In this review, I'm going to be describing my experience, tell you about the various attractions, some of the things I noticed, and hopefully that can help you decide whether this is a place you'll want to check out. So first off, as you arrive at Storyland, you just have this very small, quaint entrance off of the main road. It's designed to look like a house, specifically the Crooked Man residence, because as you can see, the roof does not appear to be on straight. You won't be able to see any attractions yet, just a couple displays through the trees. One of the things that makes Storyland unique are the interactive exhibits. You'll find these displays with various characters that'll repeat classic nursery rhymes for you to listen to. This includes Cinderella, Peter Peter, Pumpkin Eater, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Humpty Dumpty, and the Old Woman and the Shoe, which quite literally has an old woman staffed inside of a shoe. For some of these exhibits, such as Goldilocks, you can actually go in the house and see the different beds for the 3 size bears. You could get your photo op with Humpty Dumpty, and it's really a quirky setup. Most of that is on the right side of the park when you walk in, so it's in its own separate area, away from the rides, very secluded. Think of it like a themed nature walk. Because of its location in the mountains, you can't actually see most of the attractions until you get there. Storyland has a signature wooden roller coaster that opened in 2014 called Roarasaurus. That's towards the back of the park and was one of the main reasons that we wanted to visit in the first place. And for a while, we're walking around wondering, where is this thing? Granted, it's not super tall, only about 40 feet in the air, but we knew we were close when we could hear it because this is a wooden roller coaster. It's not exactly a quiet attraction, but still very family friendly. It only has a top speed of 33 miles per hour and just over 1,000 feet of track. But don't be deceived, this was a very fun attraction. It has 12 airtime moments, and some of those pops can be pretty sharp, especially the return trip. That final stretch is awesome. I was really surprised. We got several laps in on this thing, and I genuinely enjoyed it. I don't think it's my favorite of Gravity Group's family coasters, but it absolutely made the visit to Storyland worth it. I would like to see it get a retracking though in the future because it was a bit on the rougher side, but it didn't seem to be bothering any of the guests. We saw plenty of young kids on it who just wanted to go over and over again. But if you think Roarasaurus might be too extreme for you, every other attraction in the park is much more mild. The other roller coaster is from Hopkins. It's called Polar Coaster, a very unique terrain ride which almost feels Wild Mouse-esque with all these different switchbacks. Not too fast at all. My favorite part was the theme station. They made it look like an igloo and it was awesome. I'd love to see another roller coaster edition here in the future. With Roarasaurus being added over 10 years ago at this point, I think they are long overdue, and it was clear that they aren't limited on land. Sure, 35 acres might objectively not be much. There was plenty to do, and it didn't feel like all of the attractions were stacked on top of each other. There were many nice scenic walkways with nice landscaping. Plenty of colorful buildings and cute facades. And the White Mountains' only enhancement, they're just so green, it's really pretty. I know a lot of people typically come to this area for nature-related activities such as hiking or in the winter skiing, but I can see how this theme park is able to survive so long because it really strikes me as one of those activities that a family would just stop at as one of the many things that they do while in the area. And many of the attractions were well done. They have a lot of classics such as antique cars, teacups, carousel, swan boats, you get the point. And then some of your larger, more significant attractions, such as Bamboo Shoots. This is an Asian-themed log flume that ends up being a pretty short ride, and not a huge soaker, but still good fun. Moo Lagoon is their newest addition, a small water park right in the middle of everything, complete with a few slides and water play structures. Even though this park is so far north, I imagine there are still some days when it could feel nice to cool off. There's a train that goes all the way around the park called the Huff and Puff Whistle Railroad. Gives some really nice views, has 3 different stops along the way. There's no formal station, it just kind of parks on the pathway and people just get off, and when it's ready to go, it just starts back up again. Very old school, I like it. We took a nice relaxing boat ride on the water in this small pirate ship while the captain was telling us some bad pirate jokes. That was alright, I guess. And in the back of the park is this funky tractor ride that's complete with these quirky farm animals and vegetables with faces on them. That ended up becoming a running theme throughout the day, even right when you walk into the park. There's a show that takes place every few minutes with these animatronic fruits and vegetables. It actually reminded me a lot of the singing mushrooms at King's Dominion. It's one of those things that, like, I'm sure little kids love, but as an adult, I was looking at it like, what the heck is this? It was funny, it made me laugh. Dr. Geyser's Remarkable Raft Ride is the second water attraction in the park. This is your typical rapids, but with some decent theming. Like, you actually enter a house to get to your entrance. And they've scattered around all these figures that have different water features, such as a fireman with a dog and he's got a hose. Geysers will go off next to you, that sort of thing. It was a solid attraction. I'm really glad they dressed it up. My least favorite attraction in the park was called the Raptor Safari. This was a re-themed attraction that is definitely really geared towards kids, but it was really bad. You get in this vehicle that drives you around to see all these dinosaur statues, and there's just nothing interesting about it. The pre-show looks like it was created in Microsoft Paint. It just screams cheap. And I think Storyland can do a lot better. I actually know they can do a lot better because you can see that evidence throughout the park. This place has nice areas. I just wonder if Palace Entertainment is giving them the right investment to spend their money in the right places. It seems like Moo Lagoon is a solid step in the right direction, but I can't help but feel like they could be doing more. Anytime you deal with like a fairy tale theme, I feel like the potential is through the roof. And as of right now, I don't think they're fully utilizing it. Storyland is built around this idea of classic anecdotes, and none of the newer attractions embrace this concept. They're just cute, and I wouldn't call that theming. I would call that stylized. And by far, one of their biggest missed opportunities is not having a dark ride. You could do so much with these characters if you actually took the time to plan something out. I know back in the day they used to have a dark ride. The space that used to be in is now taken over by a ball pit called Loopy Play Lab, which was actually kind of fun. But that dark ride used to be there for 15 years. It was called Voyage to the Moon, closed back in the 90s. And I especially look to like what Sally has done at plenty of other theme parks across the country. They could come up with something real nice. If I could add anything to this park as of now, that would be my top choice, followed by probably another family coaster. Last attraction I'll mention is this Cinderella's coach that will take you up the hill up to her castle. Back in the day, they used to use real horses for this, but for one reason or another, they now use this. And before you go wait in line for it, realize that it is very low capacity because there's only one of these vehicles and they only seat a couple people, so the line could be kind of long. We elected to just walk up the hill, but I really enjoyed how much exploration you can do at this property. All the little houses that you can walk in, streets that you can check out, participate in the shooting gallery, there's a playground. Up until 2024, the park had farm animals. Unfortunately, during my visit, they were replaced with cutouts, so it was just odd and lackluster. You could clearly tell what was supposed to be there. I hope they bring those back at some point in the future. Overall, Storyland was a place that I enjoyed my time at. I can't say it was what I expected going in. It's very weird at times, but it certainly has personality, no doubt about it. I don't know if it's somewhere I'd be dying to come back to, but I can also recognize I am not necessarily the target demographic. I know a lot of adults who have become nostalgic for Storyland because they went there when they were a kid, and now they're grown up and want to bring their kids there one day. An incredibly clever event that they put on like 5 days a year called Nostalgia Nights, where it's 21 and up only. From 5 to 10 p.m. you can come in and they encourage you to play like a kid again. You can get night rides, have drinks, there's live music, and I just think that is brilliant. I would love to see more parks adapt that concept. If I did have to give a downside though for Storyland, I will mention the park is a little overpriced in my opinion. If you buy your day ticket online, it's $60 US. which they claim you're saving 20%, implying that if you were to buy your day ticket at the gate, it would actually be $75, which I think is pretty steep considering what you get. Don't get me wrong, they have some nice offerings, but especially if you're a family of 4 trying to spend the day here, that adds up quick. If you had asked me to take a blind guess of how much I thought a day ticket would be to Storyland, I would have guessed like $40, $45. So just something to be aware of. In my opinion, if you're going to charge that much, I feel like there should be like at least 1 or 2 more like substantial attractions that you should be offering. So we'll have to see what happens in the future, but let me know down in the comments below if you've been to Storyland in New Hampshire. What were your thoughts on it, and do you agree with the points that I brought up? If you think there's anything I missed, be sure to post that down below, and stay tuned for more park reviews here at Coaster Studios, and I'll see you next time.